Testing. There we go. That was a tough one for me. Okay. Now that I know that you can hear me and I am streaming and live. Great. This is Antarctica. We're going to be doing a little bit of exploring around the areas, looking for temperature anomalies, chasing some icebergs that float around at speeds that are just, for something so large, it just skids across the surface. It's all ice. You see how the sea ice grieves up and down, like a whole bunch of plates, like you might see if you live like in the Midwest. You might have seen ice plates like this that just hang around, that just bob up and down. But they're incredibly large. I'm going to set up the rest of my stream here. Going? Yep. Okay, good. Best I can do. So we're looking at Antarctica. Nowhere in particular in Antarctica. I haven't looked at it in a little while, so one of the things that I usually look at when I do is see any temperature anomalies, fluctuation, any things that is greater than 1 or 2 degrees of an anomaly would be worth looking into when it comes to Antarctica, especially after what happened in July last year. Really be archiving or making shorts or something based on my old previous, like building off my previous work. It's huge, but not as huge as we think. Just a bunch of frozen together masses of land. It's not as full of a continent that I used to think when I was little. It is a very extreme, severely perilous escape. And right now we're just looking at these relatively low quality, not low quality, sorry, low resolution satellite images, because this will be able to turn on this. You know that black dot. So I'm watching this area here. When I zoom in here, strange looking. Put my color back again. Sorry about that. I really only know the Larsen Shelf by name. These icebergs, they all have name and numbers assigned to them, but to me, there's so many. It's that's see anybody in any department that has track of icebergs, like that would be a very intense job. It's like, how did this block of ice go 50 miles east overnight? Get some high winds, really slippery ice conditions. sleet, snow, and probably some other type of freeze I don't quite understand because I've never actually been to Antarctica, but I imagine it's brutally cold in ways that we've never experienced, at least in the States. A few days that were pretty bad, but nothing I would say like, oh yeah, we had 100-mile winds during 2 feet of snowfall. It's extreme. It is the most extreme. So that piques curiosity to go and take a look at it to see if its extremes are being even more extreme than normal. If the average temperature is much higher than it was in a particular day or particular month. Those are the varied degrees that we're looking for. Especially like this, it's yeah, the Falkland Islands up here and Argentina. Those are bodies of land up here. See a foot of the Falkland Islands in Argentina right there. This right here. It just looks like there's a peculiar event there. Another. Everything's going to be a temperature anomaly if it's going to be interesting to look at in Antarctica. Because otherwise everything's fine and it's just ice. So there being any kind of anomaly for me to like, hey, I just turned this on and already it's looking very strange. The ice fine. Looks like it's a little hole in there. Not a big deal, just hopefully it doesn't get any bigger. It just disconnects. Could have a ripple effect because these things are always moving in a circular fashion. See if I can push play to get it to go. You can see the sea ice move, bob and weave, duck from each other. And that plate freezes on one plate, and that plate freezes on top of another plate, and that plate freezes on top of that plate, and then they start freezing below it, and it flips over, and plates start freezing and fusing on top of it, and the next thing you know, it's a huge iceberg. Awesome. I think I'm really liking the idea of volcanoes and icebergs and other forms of mass that just keep getting bigger due to natural disasters or calamities. Just seems to just be the most interesting things I talk about on this channel, or at least what I find the most. That volcano is a black glass mountain, but it has so much basalt you'll never see it. I'm talking about most volcanoes, most stratovolcanoes. But there is a volcano, Erebus, in Antarctica. Take a look at that. Okay. I know it's always active, but I don't know if it had any eruptions. We'll see with the sea ice concentration we have. Zoom in. Oh, this is working anymore. That's what that little exclamation point was. We just X that out. Get rid of that layer so we don't need it anymore. Back up here. Now this is Antarctica Rima Explorer. Get that down here. Come back over here. Come back over here. It's a pretty significant little thermal anomaly here. Supposed to be a wide skirt up. Look at this. Look at this paltry amount of sea ice. Hope that next rips get a little higher up next round. Right now, this ice is looking sparse near the southeast flank. Play. I'm just looking for colors distinguish themselves as I don't know, anomalous. This ice is really thinning here on this southeast side over here. Very, very thin. I don't recall. Before I say anything else, just let me go back by month. By month. October. October. Oh, it should be loading the layer on top of it, but I don't see it happening. That is an anomaly there. Let's go to Yuma. You zoom in. Oh, they're not going to be the most newest scans. At least will tell us if there's a scientific base in the area, which is a scientific base in the area. There might be a live camera featured. Can't trust this too much because I know this is built up over time. The other alternative is using Lima, Landsat image mosaic of Antarctica. We go here to center filled, and very awkwardly we zoom in. This I feel is more up to date, more for our purposes today. Well, the other thing too is you see these collapsing here. These are snowbanks that collapse, create these divots that eventually become little chasms. They become sinkholes pretty much in the snow. Snow melts and does a lot of other extreme things, like it's gonna melt till it hits a layer of ice and it's not gonna be able to melt anymore. But this is looking like a lot of like bank collapsing. That's a huge grouping of icebergs here. Very large. So this might not be the most up to date. If I can't go back and just last few days, I can. I can go. I can variety of ways. I can look at daily, high quality, high resolution images of Antarctica, which we will do. Right now, we're looking at a overview of some areas that we saw some anomalies in temperature that didn't look concerning, but just looked interesting. Any kind of anomaly is going to be interesting. Now this is the side that has the least amount of sea ice. You can see, dragging me up. Okay, that is a strange shape. This doesn't belong. Something happened. This looks calved. Looks just sheer clearing right off the side of it. This is some stress, but we will look at this side in better detail. This looks strange. This doesn't look like something that I remember. I would remember seeing this kind of cooling shape. If this collapsed here, can't see penguins from. This looks like a lot of collapsing in the sea, because as you saw, there is a very thin amount of ice southeast side or southeast flank of this continent. Looking real close to the edge there. So we'll continue this. Some sections that broke off, eating away at this shelf here. See a lot of ice breakup, but it's these very sharp looking edges that just look fresh. These look fresh. These look like fresh fractures. Huh. Got a 2 feet interlock here. That's actually very strange. RN. Iceberg. This looks like a piece of a moon. See where the water pours off. It's a lot of water ice that pours off these ice shelves that just glide down really high speeds, but they can freeze, they can bunch up, and a bunch of these things can pile up like on a shelf and then it falls in. That's not what's probably happening here completely, because this looks fresh. But again, we don't know the exact date of these images, we just know that they're updated. Pretty moderate resolution, but take it. Especially because of the axis of the planet, the way that satellite and everything uses momentum, there is a lot fewer snaps of the polar south and polar north above the line of the Arctic and below the line of the Antarctic. So globe, you have this line right here. Line here. And we're looking at one thing that we're looking for on this bottom line here is sea ice migrating past the line of Antarctica. That is another phenomenon that we really haven't seen, but if it happens, this is something that should be pretty critical in response to the condition of Antarctica's sea ice and its sea ice shelf life. Literally. So let's see. If we find icebergs that are floating away, that's not really what we're looking for. What we're looking for is that mass amount of frozen water, that icy frozen water that's pretty much like locked in to themselves. And it bobs up and it bobs down, it moves around. And those will be connected to other pieces of ice that wants to break off and become independent and be on its own. Oops. And then they just stay there and they just bob up and down. Pretty cool. But seeing those kind of conditions coming past that line, uh, that's another anomaly. Really just looking for a lot of what would look like somebody took a sledgehammer ice. You ever seen a large piece of ice get hit with a hammer or something, or an ice pick? Not hit with an ice pick, but hammer an ice pick so it breaks. You're not smashing the ice into little tiny pieces, but you're splitting it apart. And that splinter is where a lot of these giant pieces of ice will sail from where they broke off in an ice shelf, or just got just an ancient piece of ice that just got piled on for so long and became an iceberg and rolled around. And we can see icebergs and know they're icebergs because we can see their shadows. Icebergs have shadows. Plus the wind moves them a lot. There's a lot of funky things that happen to icebergs. One thing that I am not clear on completely is how there hasn't been footage, recording, or a very interesting report regarding an iceberg that smashes into an island, either inhabited or not. It has to happen at some point, or it had to have happened already. It just went unnoticed because by the time it hits the seabed, the seafloor, or the seawall, you might not be able to see the iceberg if it reaches shallow water or something strange. More shallow water, warmer water. It would just accelerate faster, but South Georgia Islands, what they're called, uh, east of the Falkland Islands. Right up here, South Argentina. See, that's more. This is more what I would say we were looking for earlier. You have a lot of ice that comes down, ice that comes down, and it just starts filling and filling and filling, and bobbing and hitting each other. So clearly, the world is significantly hotter than it's ever been at any other point in time since recording a thing. This is 1981. Now, we're okay. This is 20.6, 20.8. So this isn't as dramatic as it looks because the separation between here is only zero point 0.3 degrees. I mean only 3 degrees because it looked shockingly much more difference. Daily surface air temperatures. Okay, this is what we want. Idle. bring back 2023, 1979 to 2000 mean 2020. So there's an anomaly of 1 to 1.3. Nothing too extreme, because if when there's an extreme like what happened in July with incredible ice melt, that heat eventually finds its way back into the water. And Antarctica, everything happens faster. The whirlwind is constantly storming, high winds all the time. It's a shocking place from what I've always read. And now it seems to be on a great decline, a little dip here. So it's temperature is dropped lower too. It's not just the higher temperatures that we're worried about. Worried about it freezes and then rapidly drops 20 degrees and a great ice shatter happens, just littering the entire sea with spinning icebergs that are just creating all this negative wake that's not allowing sea ice to freeze behind it. It has these giant, massive pieces of ice, each one, when they move around, they spin, they turn, they slide. All that water ice that was there a moment ago is going to be briefly warmed up, and it's going to be bare. So you're going to have an area of the ocean that you're actually going to be able to see. No, see, it's going to freeze again, but it's just going to keep doing that in every iceberg, and that's just another anomaly. Seeing more iceberg activity, more faster iceberg activity. I haven't read anything about icebergs like smashing somebody's car or vehicle, snow vehicle. But it's an entirely different world down there, so we can't quite ignore it. We can look at the temperature anomalies. We can look at all sorts of data, mostly satellite data that we're going to be looking at for the Antarctica. Hey, ooh, that was that. Can you see this? I knew I should have figured out a way to zoom in on something. The other people do it. Right there. That is a very peculiar shift. When does it move laterally? Lateral increase? After an increase, it just got boosted twice. See, in other patterns, when you have a flat line, temperature goes down. With this recent November marking, temperatures are staying the same instead of dropping. The temperatures are just going up. It hit a low, it plateaued, and then instead of like every other time this year, temperature doesn't go down, sharply starts increasing up. And then it has a spectacular dip right when it gets to plus 25C. That's the other thing too, like whenever we talk about 1.5C, 1.5 degrees Celsius, that's 34.7 degrees Fahrenheit. So when we reach these numbers, we expect to reach these numbers in the oceans as well. And due to previous work that I've looked at and with Antarctica, especially just chasing icebergs. Uh, Never seen anything like it before. It's very odd, but uh, this anomaly right here is very concerning. Let's see, can we pull up other ones I have? It is a strange look. It is it's just such a striking right uh, dash, followed by a steady increase. That one more thing. Daily sea ice. Blowing up a little bit. But it looks like we're at least on the right path with the northern hemisphere. Antarctica, on the other hand, is in some rough shape. You're well beyond its. Yeah, it's turning down way too soon compared to 1989, compared to any other year. That is striking, isn't it? That 1.5 million tons of sea ice wasn't created. It's or it just evaporated, absorbed into other forms, just froze a giant amount of water ice and sailed off into the sea and melted under the sun somewhere above the line of Antarctica. Line of Antarctica. Yeah. That is, and now, similar as we saw in other examples, how it just has that plateau and then it just has a steep decrease. So what we're seeing is where a rise and increase in temperature, especially an anomaly in temperature. We're going to see a drop in sea ice extent. The amount of sea ice that can be held at any given point, the amount of sea ice that is currently existing that is supporting this uh, supercontinent. It is not a thread we want to pull. It is alarming that this is 2023 right here. This line had a really rough start of it in June and July with sea ice due to the incredibly record-breaking temperatures that happened throughout last year and in July. All that heat eventually finds its way to the seas, or in this case, melting sea ice and keeping sea ice from being in. This is catastrophic. This is a catastrophic drop. This isn't like the other gap that we saw in the other figure is 0.2 degrees. This is millions of ice, millions of tons of ice that isn't recorded. You can see here. Right there. Here. Sure about that. This looks like separation. As it turns, I know there's a way to get that animated. I can't remember. Map, literally that daily animation. Yep. Okay, it is thinning a great deal. So let's see, 11/1, the date is in the right hand corner. It does look like the ice is weakening a great deal. Right here. Gotta get the edge in there. I think something's wrong. It's not just the southeast flank, the whole side right here that is has had a loss of ice, but up here as well, and there is a hole opening up right, and it's pulling away from the sea ice that is connected to the continent. Do that again. What normally it spins like a band, like a saw blade. You want more of that animation. You want for the temperatures to be consistent all around. You don't want it to get blocked up and to have these gaps exist in the most extreme and most fragile ecosystem on this planet. That make sure. Okay, so sea ice does look like it's returning to the North Atlantic of the Arctic line. So it really is just the that hole is not showing up. 2 meter. Go down. Yeah, there it is. August. Yep, August. Oh, there's definitely a huge, massive thermal expansion that happened. Right where we were looking at, actually. Not looking too bad up here in Greenland. But this is August. That just slides over. This temperature. It's getting very excitable. And this is what we're talking about. That line here. Tropic. This line right here. This line here on the bottom. If any of that dark blue water comes up this way, that's when, you know, we should be panicking well before that point. But don't see it there. I see you have multiple holes right here. Right here. We have some separation happening here. real dramatic images unfolding. I'll come back here where we first saw the back. Might be come out of this. See the shadow right here of this iceberg. The shadow, that's not a separation of water to iceberg. Rather, it's shadow. Because these icebergs are tall. And you have these more like this is the tissue of Antarctica. The living and breathing lungs of South Pole. All these plates, all these bergs, they just go up and down, are connected in so many different frozen ways. They are massive numbers as they are in size. They can be a lot deeper, larger, taller. This is when I was talking about a negative wake effect. More what I'm talking about here is when you have these icebergs that are rotating, it's going to leave this path behind it where it has to catch up and freeze, and it's going to do that as soon as it can. But not seeing a lot of decent using Sentinel-2. I might switch over to Sentinel-1. Right now we're just going across that steam. Just going across and what? Let's make a time lapse area. That looks promising. So 1, 2, 3. Goes from being busted up in pieces, giant expanses of open sea, to being completely covered in snow and ice. To where we see it now, it looks pretty disconnected from the rest of it. So areas that we saw that were of importance were south of South Africa. Now let's try lost color. There we go. So this gives us a separation of sea ice to water ice to continental ice. This is all sea right here. Dark black, that's sea, so it's breathes and ebbs and flows. I don't. That doesn't quite look like what we're seeing on satellite, so I'll move across. We're looking for. We might not be able to get an actual image of it because it is such cloud obstruction. You can go Sentinel-1 instead of using Sentinel-2 imaging. I don't. You know what? One thing before we do, let's do a moisture index check. Go back to south of Argentina and the Falkland Islands. Whoa. Whoa. So this was one of the first areas that we marked with we were using the other website. This is looking like muscle. Great anomalies that are just popping around. Moisture index, not temperature. But seen a lot of, maybe a shelf ran off. Maybe a lot of material, a lot of ice, water just came off it. That looks tremendous. Normally I was just going to see like a lot of the veiny appearance. It's very light blue here that you want to see next to the continent, especially at the shelves. Seen a lot of this breaking apart, these cracks, which are natural, because they're always bending and breaking and slamming into each other. Seeing these very, very light breaks. So we're not getting a very good visual, so we change it to Sentinel. That's more like it. Hey, there, iceberg here. That's a great example of this negative weight that it leaves in itself. Take a time lapse. Let's see where this iceberg's been. Not really that busy. Just imagine, this is millions of tons of water ice floating around. Sudden shock, but it seems to be in place. They're way up here. Time lapse of this area that we saw anomaly in. Play. Some rotation, some breaking apart. Nice and twisted, and they seem to be preset in there. Continue our path north, where this might be explained. Play. It looks like there was a sudden lurch. Everything just went, huh. We're getting near Penguin Island. You look at these shelves. Elephant feet. A lot of sawing and cutting and moving and rotating and revolving. And some pieces of ice get stuck. Permanent. Now where you go? It looks like a tongue. This looks like a tongue. Teeth here. No, that's just silly. I think we have to zoom out any further. Okay, so it just sits there. Okay, it has a center line. You can see its center line. You can see it like this, and then this thing changes, and then it's like this, and then it shifts a little bit more, and it's like this. So it's not just perfectly in place. It's rocking. Tell that by its center line. And you can tell by the water it's displacing. Not rotating, it's just rocking in place, doing this, trying to get out like it's stuck. We don't know how tall or much more of this iceberg is in there under that water. It could be an island of ice. There's a lot of them here, but not that big. Looks like a mashup area. Oh, we can get both shelves here. Okay. 12 frames. Play. So let's minimal tile coverage, 19%. So we filter out the ones that are just mostly black, not without a lot of satellite imaging. They're only a couple of days apart, each one of these images. 7th to the 1st to the 8th, 10th, 13th, 20th. Last is it's a 4 or 5 day jump. Look at it right here. Trying to find his way up to that crevice. Pretty big iceberg. Definition. Just lurches into the picture. It is. Slowly comes into frame. Mostly just looking to see if any teeth fell out. That's massive. 77 kilometers long, 43 kilometers wide. Telling how deep it runs for. Thing turns. Some shadowing. Nope. Turning. So it hits the stop. Very violent gesture. The waves. The water is pushed. This thing does this rocking. And also does this turning. It's doing a lot that pretty much looks like it's breaking it up into pieces. Oh, that corner here was already there before it got in the frame. That was that piece right here. That wasn't attached to it earlier. Still, fantastic. Check this ice shelf here. Do it from a little higher up this time in the first scan. Does look good chewed up right here. Let's take another look at it. Play. It just looks to be milling out this area. That'll be a golf someday, maybe. That looked furious. Look weird. Get him. They look pretty much frozen in their places. Detail on that. Rest marks, cracks, fractures. Nothing unusual. Still looking for any kind of anomaly. This ice melt up here definitely was good. Not the cause, but we saw that move into place along with a sudden decrease in temperature. apologize. That little guy already. Keep going west. Done here. Now this would be more in line of Antarctica. Seeing a little bit of spilling, but no definite determination. But that's more of what we're looking for, is that type of mixture meeting that ocean water that's warmer. So far we've seen a lot of things chewed up and chipped out. These two, go back. I'm not getting results. Okay. A lot of very warm ice. Right here, we're in that hole. 5.2 in Greece. Time lapse of this area. these are all going to be too old because these are going to be 27. See if we can go for a little. This is the chlorophyll index. Right. Boom, right here. We just keep seeing different ways. This is looking crazy. Okay, well, there's our warm spot here. Girl that we saw. And 24 to 11.3. We do that daily in Sentinel-3, but it's nice. What do you? Not going to show up as great. That's better. Let's just go around the exterior. What the hell is that? What the hell is this? We see the shattering. Okay, so things are starting to pop in. This looks fairly unusual. Looks violent. And you can see this ice shelf here is breaking apart more now. It starts starts running across here. I have big problems here. Real big problems with such an anomaly experience. Uh, here. Pulled out. Gonna pull all that out. You see how it separates from the side. All pull and reset. Interlock itself into place. But this is looking catastrophic. You can see just how much this is broken. A lot of new sea ice extent. It might refreeze. It's still close to, very within this range of refreezing. We're seeing temperature spikes in these areas that are causing ice to do things like melt. Mainly looking for giant pieces of frozen land that's sailing off into the sea. Just marginal. Took a moment, but I'm loading it now. This is massive happening. Storms look so crazy. The wind, you can see it on satellite. It's moving so fast. This is with a scale of 50 kilometers. So, I mean, this is a lot. This is huge sections of Antarctica that we're looking at. There's some lensing effect from the surface wind or possible snow. That is huge. Cracks here, and the whole thing just crumples. It can all refreeze again, but it does not connect it, and it just first you have this pretty much in just one piece. And then it shakes and breaks into thousands of pieces, reforms itself. Weather looks insane on top of it, and it refreezes back to, but it's still disconnected. Still, it's not good. Would be around where that hole is that we were investigating. But not really a hole, just a gap. Real nasty weather. Some of the worst on the planet. The wind's so harsh you can see it blow on satellite. It's not cloud obstruction, it's weather obstruction. I say that. It is weather obstructed, not cloud obstructed. I'll wait for this to load. Breaking two. There are all the areas that we saw that had temperature anomalies, sea ice movement, and kind of wispy looking water coming out. Getting too warm and the water mixing and it comes in the swirls. Water's going out and then it's getting too warm and it gets fought back. So like Antarctica is having some problems. This whole ice shelf right here just very strange. Possible steam. Steam. See how this water just travels. Just disappears from underneath you. Here that's somewhere you can step and separate from its main continent. This is looking discolored, like it's going to separate. We're only going back a couple of months. Okay, so that was big and connected at one point. The thing was massive and connected. Just kept getting eaten away. Broke. Still breaking. This is gonna break. See the weather, see the wind. That. Let's see these along. That's just gone by itself. Back and play that again. Just slides right in. Your ice melt. Incredible, just the amount of that we're seeing right here. This is a calamity. All we can do is watch. Militaries are uranium tip this, uranium tip that. That's huge, massive, in just a few short days. This is part of what the anomalies that we were looking at earlier. To temperature anomaly, sea ice anomaly. See this little carved out piece right here. It's extreme. An extreme event we're yeah, let's get a time lapse of it real quick. Frames. Go back one. Big, big. Oh. mostly cloud obstructed. Then it just looks like it separates along with lots of other long channels. Separates right here. A big old disc going along. See the shadow of it. It's just a dominating structure. It's There used to have ice in it. Waiting for us to load up. Apologies for. Yep. Down here. Out. It's breaking more. Gonna be that. This breaks apart. And this is gonna be pulled out. I I went away for a moment apparently, and I'm back now. Interesting. Check this here. Okay, not too dramatic. We find ourselves back to where we started. See if we can land set. Probably not. Okay, well, do hope we made some progress. As for keeping up on the sea ice, icebergs, and just these anomalies that we noted, just try to keep optimistic outlook. These swings are big swings, but they've happened before, and just looks so alarming. The ice on one side of the continent so thin, the north side thinning as well, and clear hole indicator there. The south of Australia. No, sorry, Argentina, Falkland Islands, Africa. Between Africa and Australia. Alarming. That is all I have for today. Go away. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I hope to have more sea ice coverage, especially in the North Atlantic, going above the Arctic line, and should be better right now. But this is looking worrying. Keep up and keep at it. Check it every so often, because can't check it every day. The satellite is not there for the better resolution. All right. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.